Welcome, Jordan here. Today, we're going to be going deep into one of the core money blocks that I've noticed across a variety of different clients, as well as this being a big part of my own personal journey as well. And this is going to be specifically relevant to receiving more money with a greater sense of ease. Now, if you want to go deeper into that topic specifically, I have a full class here on YouTube down below that you'll be able to find, and you can watch that after this video. What I'm going to do first is share the core belief behind this block. We're going to look at some examples as to how this may be showing up so you can identify potentially some of the patterns that may be playing out for you right now. And then we're going to look at what is underneath and really how to embrace and let go of this in the first place. So, in essence, the biggest block that I've seen across many, many different clients and a big part of my own journey as well is that if it is not hard and if I have not suffered, then I have not earned it. Now, if we look at the words that are associated with that for a second, there is hard, there is suffer, and there is earning. All of our words always imply something. And with the combination of those words in that sentence, what we're looking at here is the modern day hustle and grind. If you did not break your back to get it, then you didn't earn it. Now, I don't know when we decided that to be true. But the more that we embrace that as a narrative, as a story, as something that we hold close to our identity and who we are, the more we experience that in the world around us. And it took me a long time to realize that. So as we go deeper into this, how does this show up? Like, how do you know if this is something that is playing out in your life right now? Well, let's look at a couple of different examples when it comes to business or creativity or making money in general. The first thing I'm going to address that I just said there is making money. We don't make money, we receive money from other people. Always. You've never made money in your life unless you've printed it or created or made your own fake ones. So we don't make money, we receive it. So again, coming back to our language. So if we're constantly thinking that we need to make it, then we're creating a cycle for ourselves where we feel like we are the one who is the machine creating it. And it's simply not the truth because we have always received money from others in some way, shape, or form. So that's the first thing. How this may be showing up, if we go a little bit deeper into that, is if business, the thing that we're doing, feels like a grind, feels heavy, if we're doing something because we need to make money or we're doing something out of duty and an obligation rather than genuine passion or genuine love for what we do, we're simply just in the vehicle that we feel like we need to be in so that we can produce the income that we're looking to make, then that's going to feel heavy. It's creating a certain amount of suffering in our lives because we're only doing it for that purpose because we've put money on the pedestal of being above us. So therefore, we must suffer and do something that we don't want to do in order to receive it. You see how there's so many layers to that? For me, this played out in jobs, first of all, and then played out into the business that I ended up choosing as my first business, which was a freelancing business that then transitioned into a marketing agency. Now, I did this for about 3 years or so. And this journey was me doing something I thought was the right thing to do rather than something I genuinely felt called to do. Right. And that was a journey in itself that just, led me to what I do today, which is something I absolutely love. So that was part of my path. But in that phase, I thought if I just get the right vehicle, then I will be able to receive the money that I want. And even though I was able to hit some goals along the way that I was very proud of, and a younger part of me would have been very impressed, I still felt this heaviness because everything felt really challenging and really difficult. Now, what we're not talking about here is removing life's challenges. We're not talking about trying to find the easy path and have no challenges in life ever. That doesn't exist. But what we can do is align ourselves and what we do to something that allows us to let go of the belief that things need to be really hard in order to earn it and set ourselves up for a sense of flow and a sense of ease, doing what we love to do that we would do for free or that we're just doing anyway because it's part of who we are, part of our gifts, part of what we're here to contribute to the world. Naturally, when we position ourselves in that way and show up from that place, money has this place to flow to that does not feel like grind and hustle and work to you, right? Doesn't mean there's not going to be hard things along the way. but there's a different way to approach it. And that's something I've discovered over these last couple of years. I went from literally working 16, 17 hours a day, doing everything I possibly could to make money, to then running a business that I really love. And I remember there was a time in 2024, I was sitting down with my family watching Harry Potter, and there was a couple of $1,000s coming in while I was watching these movies. Now, I say that because previous version of me would never have been able to be comfortable with receiving that because I felt like everything had to be challenging, everything had to be a grind. So this is how it can show up in terms of like what we choose to do and how we approach our work overall. Another one is if you find yourself unconsciously spending to get rid of it, but it's masked as I'm just having a good life. Now, I'm all about having nice things and enjoying life and enjoying the beautiful things that are part of life to spend money on. But if the second money hits your account and then you're already looking at how to get rid of it or to how to spend it, then there's probably a part of you that doesn't feel safe with the new amount of money that has just arrived. This was a pattern for me for a long time. Anytime money came in, almost the same day or at least the same week, it was gone on something. Now, I thought I was just investing in myself, which is part of that for sure. But a part of me was just trying to get rid of it because I wasn't comfortable with it. And this was such a interesting thing that I witnessed in one of my clients as well. He was running a marketing agency, really loved what he did, but he kept hitting the same income ceiling. And for about 18 months, he was at the same income over and over again every single month. We started working together and we started to see that there was a pattern here of an emotion that was driving everything under the surface that I'll get to later in this video as we go a little bit deeper. But we started to see that money was going out just as much as it was coming in. So, one of the foundational pieces that we started to look at was when money comes in, let's leave it there. Let's just look at it for a moment, especially if there's an excess coming in, allowing it to be there and not doing anything with it for the time being was actually one of the most powerful practices that we did in that time. Because what was happening is he was now becoming more comfortable. His body, his nervous system, his mind was adjusting to the more without buying into the impulse to get rid of it. And what's fascinating about this is when we are driven by a sense of urgency or a sense of fear that's underneath the surface, right? And we'll get deeper into this a little bit later. The unconscious need to spend is actually a way to tap into the same motivation that made us make the money in the first place. You see what I mean? Because if we're living in the state of urgency of I need to make more, I need to produce more, and that's the state that we're in, when we make that money, we then have lost the fuel that drove us. Even that in itself can feel very unsettling if you're not used to that. So, what a lot of people will do is recreate the same scenario for themselves by getting rid of all the money, going back down to their baseline so that they can tap into the same fuel that drove them there. And then the cycle repeats. And then you have the highs and lows and the ups and downs of I make this money and then I go back down and I don't know what's happening. It's all an unconscious system and pattern that's playing out to bring you back down to your baseline. Another thing here is just feeling genuinely comfortable with a sense of ease. This is very much tied to a feeling of safety. We've touched on a couple of core elements there, but really a sense of safety with ease means that you feel okay regardless of what's going on around you. Safety is this thing that is really cultivated within our childhood, within us feeling a sense of safety, a sense of certainty in a very uncertain world. Now, we're not going to be able to change the outside world to make the outside world more certain. It's about us cultivating a sense of safety within so that when things get a little bit easier and we make a little bit more money and we are doing well and we're enjoying what we're doing, these different things are things that we feel comfortable with, safe with, so that we don't unnecessarily start creating a bunch of scenarios for ourselves where we're making things really challenging. Because again, it comes from the same belief of if this is not hard, if I am not suffering, I did not earn it. But what if the question was, how can I allow this process, this thing that I'm doing, how I make money, how I receive money, how can I allow that to be easy? When I look at many different entrepreneurs I've worked with, as well as my own business as well, and my reflection on how I used to operate, I used to create so much complexity. And I've seen this across many people, making it very, very difficult for people to pay you, or making it very, very difficult for people to find you or to see you, because you're kind of hiding away, or you don't feel safe to be seen or to be visible. So you create all the complexity, and then you make it really hard to receive money because you don't feel safe with receiving money. So there's a part of you blocking it, but while another part of you is desiring it. So it's this push and pull constantly. So we've looked at a variety of different examples there. We've touched on a little bit of fear, which is the driver underneath. Let's go a little bit deeper into that. When we are growing up in our life, and depending on our environment, culture, all of the different components that play a role in us, becoming the person that we are oftentimes shaped into someone we feel like we need to be to survive. When you're growing up and you're in an environment that didn't encourage you to be yourself, you're taking on the paradigms and perceptions of people, family members who may not fully be themselves. They may be, playing a character as well based on how they were raised. All of these different components play a role. When we cultivate a sense of identity based on the things outside of us so that we can survive out of pure survival and the need to create safety for ourselves, we start to play a character in life. When we start to play a character in life, we are driven by the sense of urgency and fear underneath, because if that's what we grew up surrounded by, then that's what we're going to feel, right? If we feel that, and that's the thing driving our actions, then anything other than that sense of urgency and survival is going to threaten our sense of self. It's going to challenge how we think, and it's going to make us feel uneasy. So, what are we going to do? Well, our body and our nervous system and our subconscious is going to bring us back to what's familiar, because that's at least familiar to us. Familiarity equals safety. So even if the other thing, which is easier and more relaxed, and it's not driven by fear, it's driven by more passion or love, that is going to feel unsafe because it is unfamiliar. This is why oftentimes we can work against ourselves. So when we are driven by the sense of urgency of I need to survive, I need to be able to make money so that I can be better than these people, or I can be perceived in this way, or I can be seen as successful, or this is how I should be in order to be successful. Everybody around me is teaching me this way, so therefore I need to be like them in order to be successful. Those stories and those narratives and those things that we've learned from others about how to do things or how to be in the world create this barrier between us and a sense of ease, because we believe that we need to be something other than who we are to receive. And what's interesting is the easiest way that I've found more flow in my life when it comes to receiving money, when it comes to receiving opportunities, and just living a life that is going with the flow of life rather than trying to work against it, is allowing myself to be more of who I really am rather than what I was told to be based on other people's opinions. Now, I know this is something that you may hear often, but the most authentic version of you is the version of you that allows that greater sense of ease to flow to you. And as you express that, because we all have these unique gifts, I believe, that are here to play a role in the world, and we're here to be compensated for that. As you do that, and as you be more of that in the world, you allow a greater sense of flow. So when we look at that fear underneath and we're driven by that sense of fear and urgency, then anything foreign to that is unsettling. But what we're really aiming to do is to let go of the belief that things need to be hard, which is letting go of the belief that we need to be driven by fear and urgency in order to receive. So tapping into this other fuel source of something that pulls you forward is really going from fear to love. And it's love for yourself, it's love for others, it's seeing how we're connected to other people. It's seeing that we're not in competition with others, but we actually have the ability to collaborate. This idea of competition comes from the same fear. It's me against you, it's you against this person. Somewhere along the way, we decided that we're all against each other. Is that something that we consciously chose, or is that something that was just given to us as a narrative that we just thought was real? It's when we're stuck in our heads and we're disconnected from our hearts, we think that we are in competition with other people. But there is nobody in this world who can be better at being you than you. So where's the competition? So therefore, to be able to tap into this lighter driver and let go of the fear. It's learning to love ourselves deeper. It's learning to love others. It's learning to understand that you are unique in your own way. You have your own gifts and talents to be able to give to the world. And you're here to give those and then to also receive from that as well. But when we're pretending to be somebody else, we make things 10 times harder for ourselves. So we've talked about fear, and fear being the primary driver that creates this sense of struggle and suffering for ourselves, because when we're living in fear, things become harder. When we live in love, things become lighter and easier naturally. It's a different frequency, it's a different vibration. The deeper layer under this that stops many people from really receiving with a sense of ease is a sense of guilt that they feel. Guilt is when you believe that you've done something wrong. And this one goes deep because it depends on the circumstances and environments that you maybe grew up in or maybe throughout your life. We can very easily develop this sense of guilt because of different things that have gone on in our lives or different things that have happened, as part of our experience. Now, I like to see all of these things as lessons and opportunities to forgive and to love ourselves and others even deeper. Guilt is a very heavy emotion. And as part of guilt, it attaches this story of, I have done something wrong. That's the belief system in place. And if the belief is, I have done something wrong, then therefore, how does that tie to the original belief that we talked about? If I have done something wrong, therefore I must suffer. I must reap the repercussions of the thing that I believe that I've done wrong. Now, whether you've done something wrong or not is irrelevant. Can you forgive yourself? Can you let the guilt go? Can you bring yourself through the process of processing that and forgiving the people involved, you, yourself, and everything, so that you can let go and put down the weight? Because you are innocent. When we experience things and we label them as good or bad, we attach a story to it. When we attach a story to it, we carry that story with us and it becomes part of who we are. If that story is not serving us moving forward, we have the power to choose and to change it. But to be able to do that requires a new perspective. To be able to form a new perspective, we need to look at the other side. If the guilt is something heavy pulling us down, and that's something we believe to be negative, what is the positive aspect of that? How did that help you grow? How did that help you learn? How did that help you become who you are today? Would you be you without it? That even may be a challenging thing to even think about, but balancing that and bringing yourself to that state of neutrality is a journey. Don't get me wrong, but it's there and it's available to let go of any form of guilt. So as we let go of guilt and feeling like we've done something wrong, then we release the need to create unnecessary suffering for ourselves in our life through carrying that story with us. The next part that I'll speak about here is shame. Shame is a heavy emotion as well. It's more based around the belief and story of there's something inherently wrong with me. And that can come from a variety of different things, experiences. And the big component with all of this is that this plays out directly into the story that you create around money, because money in itself is simply just a mirror. It's a mirror for what you believe about yourself, a mirror for how you feel about the world and how you feel about contribution, how you feel about service, how you feel about your own self value. If we carry a sense of shame and we believe that there's something inherently wrong with us, then why would we receive money? Why would we receive more without earning it or forcing it or pushing it? You see, we have to be able to examine what it is that's driving us underneath the surface, to look at what's happening on the surface. And how we can look at this is simply just look at the patterns that are playing out. The patterns that play out in our life give us a lot of the data that we're truly looking for. If we give ourselves the time to simply look back and reflect on what it is that's playing out above all else. Remember the client I told you about a while ago that was spending money just to bring himself back down to baseline? Well, there was also a moment where we realized that guilt associated to another situation that he was experiencing or that he had experienced was something that was weighing him down. When we were able to go and balance these two aspects and bring himself into a state of neutrality, after 18 months of being stuck at the same income, it doubled in 30 days. And it came down to that weight of guilt pulling him down. Because the thing with money is that it is an energy. So, therefore, when we're carrying a weight, whether it be guilt or shame or fear or just any form of heaviness, we limit and contract our ability to receive. It's like having a glass like this, right? And that's your capacity. Your capacity to receive is that glass. So if I was to get water and to pour water into this, eventually it would overflow and there would be nowhere for the water to go. So the best thing that I could do is to stop pouring the water because there's nowhere for the water to flow to. So what I'm trying to do is not keep pouring water into the glass and hope that some way it just stays there. I'm trying to expand the container to hold it. I'm expanding the container of energy, which is me, energetically, to receive the energy of money in a greater capacity. So, therefore, it's not about a different glass, it's about getting a bucket or a bathtub and filling it with water so it has somewhere to flow to. When we are carrying things like guilt or shame, or we're living in the state of fear in a contracted state of urgency where we're feeling that in our body, we limit our capacity. We don't allow ourselves to expand. We don't open up at the idea of more. We contract because we believe it has to be harder. We have to suffer. So there's so many different ways that we can look at this. Expanding that container and in cultivating that sense of ease with receiving is something I go through in that class below here on YouTube. You'll be able to check that out in the first link in the description. So when we look at these different components, what we're looking about is first of all, letting go of the belief that you need to suffer, you need to earn it, it needs to be hard. You can choose in a moment to let that go if you truly decide. There's a difference between having an idea of something and truly deciding that now is the time to let that go. And then the next question to open up a new thought process is how can I allow it to be easy? Maybe even just pondering that for a little bit. And the last thing here with this is understanding the core emotion that's driving the patterns. And to find that, look at the patterns, look at the last 3 months, see how things are going. Is there something that's reoccurring? And if you were to examine the pattern in a little bit more detail, what is the emotion underneath that's actually causing the pattern to play out in the way that it is? So there's a couple different starting points that you can look at there. If you have any further questions, drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear what's coming up for you. With all of that being said, I truly believe that money is simply a mirror for what's going on within us, like anything in life. So the more that we can use that mirror to our own benefit to see what are the emotions, what are the patterns, what are the beliefs that are underneath the surface causing this experience that I'm having right now, the more we can start to see that this is benefiting us and giving us a lot of growth that we can lean into or shy away from. The choice is always ours at the end of the day. With all that being said, I will see you in the next one. Take care.